That's what it says.
It says it's now live, but I don't see it yet.
Mine says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
All right.
So I think we should assume that.
Yep. All right. Let's go ahead. Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's Giving Tuesday. We've been hard at work for the last month, trying to get everybody primed and ready to mobilize our communities to give. Giving Tuesday, it was developed in 2012. It's like an idea or a movement that if we harness our generosity, we can move mountains. So I'm gonna introduce myself yet. My name is Kelly McClelland, and I am the coordinator for First Response Outreach for the Truck Safety Coalition. But more importantly than that, my family was involved in a crash with a semi on August 16th of 2010. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at noon when I interview my father, and we will share our story in a little bit more detail. But briefly, my family was headed back from a trip, an annual trip to Ohio. They were headed back to Maryland when they were slowed in construction traffic, and a driver of a triple tractor trailer dozed off at the wheel and rear-ended them, pushing them into the semi in front of them. And my stepmom, Susan, was killed, and my two younger brothers were very seriously injured. One of them is permanently disabled with a traumatic brain injury. So that's how I got involved with the Truck Safety Coalition. And again, more on that at noon when I interview my father. But for right now, I want to just tell you a little bit about who we are as an organization. And then I have Dawn King, the president of the Truck Safety Coalition here. And she's going to talk a little bit about how she got involved and, what it has meant to be involved in the Truck Safety Coalition. So we are a partnership between two 501c3 nonprofit organizations, Parents Against Tired Truckers, or PAT, and the Crash Foundation. Our mission is to provide compassionate support to people who have survived truck crashes, or people like myself and Dawn who have had loved ones either injured or killed in truck crashes. We also seek to reduce the number of crashes, and we do that through education and advocacy. We work to educate all stakeholders, lawmakers, media, the public, about truck safety issues. And I made myself a couple notes here to make sure I don't miss anything. We also meet in Washington, D.C. every other year for our conference, which is called Sorrow to Strength. And we celebrate the lives of our loved ones. We commemorate all of the survivors and what they've been through. And then we educate ourselves to then go onto the Hill and educate policymakers about truck safety issues. As I said, today is Giving Tuesday. We have two generous donors who have offered to match up to $10,000 in donations today each. So that's $20,000 to match the first $10,000 we earn. And I also want to mention that because in part of the CARES Act, which is the COVID relief legislation, people who normally don't get deductions for charitable donations will be able to get up to a $300 deduction in 2020. So you will be able to, we know times are tough right now, so you will be able to relieve a little bit of your tax burden through your donation. So Dawn, why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened to your family and how you got involved with the Truck Safety Coalition?
Well, first, thanks, Kelly, for interviewing me. We got involved in a very similar way that you did. Our crash sounds almost the same. My father in 2004, 2 days before Christmas in 2004, was on his way to the airport to travel north to visit one of his children for the holidays. And he was also slowed in traffic, just like your family. He was slowed in traffic for a previous small crash, and the traffic was being directed by police and firefighters around that crash. And the semi in back of him didn't notice all those lights flashing, didn't notice the car stopped, and slammed in the back of him and also pushed him into the semi in front of him. So he was killed instantly. And of course, our family had no idea that any of this was prevalent out on the roads. And And in the first few days, while we were trying to figure out what to do, somebody in the family was just Googling truck crashes and came across the Truck Safety Coalition. And that was the first help that we felt we got. So many of my siblings and I have been volunteering ever since, and it's been 16 years of support. And that's how we got involved.
I'll never forget. So we were my family's crash was just outside of Akron, Ohio. And so my brothers were flown to Akron Children's Hospital. And we lived just outside of Baltimore. So we had to fly to Akron, and my dad was at work in DC. So he flew from DC, I flew from Baltimore. And at some point we got a letter and brochure in the mail. And I don't know if it came to our address in Baltimore and somebody brought our mail, or if somehow the Truck Safety Coalition figured out that we were in the hospital. It's been, 10 years. So I don't know. I don't even know who sent it. But we got the brochure and the letter in the mail, and it said, "You are not alone." And to me, I was overwhelmed with this feeling that, really? Really? There are people who have been through this. And it was such a comfort and such a sense of
It was a relief. Wasn't it a relief?
It was
like
a relief.
Big weight lifted.
Mm-hmm. We don't have to do this alone. And so I called. So part of the brochure talks about the legal implications of being in a truck crash, because and something else that I didn't, necessarily realize is that the companies have done this before. Many of them. They've dealt with a fatal crash before. They've dealt with
many fatal crashes.
Many, yes. And so they know what to do. They have lawyers on retainer. They know exactly how to handle these situations. But the motoring public, the people who are just, heading home from a family vacation or heading to a family vacation, we have no idea what to do. And so one of the things that it said in the brochure was, it's important to find an attorney who specifically deals with truck crashes and knows what they're doing. And I immediately said, my dad, he said, "Figure this out. I can't deal with this right now." And so I called and I said, "What do we do? How do we find that?" Finding an attorney is like finding a general practitioner physician. I mean, there's so many. And so they were able to help us figure out, the questions to ask and how to, make sure that we're finding somebody who's going to really represent our family. And for us, it's truly critical for everyone. But I think in cases like ours, where there are survivors, and my brother Matthew was 12 at the time, and, his brain injury is very severe. And at the time, we didn't know what his functioning would be like. And it turns out that he's going to need care and support for the rest of his life. And if we didn't have somebody representing us who knew what that looked like and how to figure out, how to make sure that he would get the best care possible for the rest of his life, we would have ended up in a very, very different situation than we're in.
I remember the first time we felt overwhelmed was when we looked up at our truck company, the name of the attorney that wrote to us, and there was a picture on their attorney's page, and there was like a conference room, and there were maybe 15 or 20 people in suits in this picture, and those were the attorneys for the truck company. And my husband and I looked at each other, and that's before we had anybody, and we just thought, oh, like there's just us, there's just this little family, and there's all those people in suits, and how in the world are we ever going to get any support and help and justice us against them? They're so practiced and slick. And so that's why it was such a relief to get somebody involved that had been through this before and knew what we should do. So we didn't have to make those decisions. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already been invented.
It has
people up there to help us. We don't have to start from scratch. So that was just a huge relief off my shoulders.
And the practical tips about, I mean, just the things that, you know, so we now have, the Truck Safety Coalition now has a Facebook group specifically for survivors, and then friends and families of folks who have been killed or injured in truck crashes. And I felt so alone in my grief after the crash, especially in that first year. I felt there's a organization here in the Baltimore area, a hospice care, that offers free grief counseling for the community. You don't have to have lost somebody in the hospice program. And so I went there for grief counseling, and they had a list of workshops and support groups and things. And I remember thinking, I don't belong to any of these. This isn't where I belong. I want to go. I need to be with other people who have lost loved ones at the hands of somebody else's negligence, because it felt like somebody murdered Susan. And he in fact did plead guilty to vehicular manslaughter. But my family member was killed because somebody else made a decision. My brother's life was permanently altered and taken from us in the way that it was meant to be because somebody else made a decision. And so I felt like I wanted to go to support groups for, families of murder victims or drunk driving victims. And it just didn't fit. And so, since I've come on board as a staff member of the Truck Safety Coalition, it's been very important to me to create a community where people and we're all over the country, that people can come together and be that support for each other, and talk about, what it is to experience this kind of loss. And so I'm, if anybody out there is watching this and you are part of this club, that none of us want to be a part of, please, send us a message on our Facebook page, go to our website. There's contact numbers, email addresses, info@trucksafety.org. And let us know if you want to be a part of it. You can join our email list. And let's actually talk a little bit, let's shift now and talk a little bit about the advocacy work that you've done since becoming involved. And Dawn has testified in front of congressional subcommittees and talked about some of the issues related to truck safety.
Well, back in my previous life, I wasn't politically astute, and I didn't follow anything on the Hill. I didn't even know it was called the Hill. And I didn't know that you could make an appointment with your senator or your congressional office and go in and talk to someone. I didn't know how easy that was. And the first time my sister and I went to the very first Sorrow to Strength, and during that we got to go meet with our congressperson, our actual congressperson, and the staff of both our senators. And we walked out of there thinking, wow, we had something to say and somebody listened. And now we were naive enough to think that we had fixed the problem after that first day. We walked out thinking, wow, we told them, and I'm sure all these laws will be changed and we can go back to our life as it was before. And since then, I've learned that it takes a lot of meetings, it takes a lot of people to keep talking about these issues to get them noticed, But it is empowering to go to these meetings, to do the press conferences, to talk to people in your own state and in DC about the issues, and find out there are a lot of people out there that are supportive. And the more of us that get together and speak about these issues, the better chance we have of getting some changes made that make our roads safer for everyone, including the truck drivers themselves.
Mm-hmm. Sorry to interrupt.
I was just going to say, so that is, our biannual conference is called Sorrow to Strength for exactly that reason. When we first come into that conference, we are filled with grief, and the grief never goes totally away. But by the time we leave, we've learned more information, and we're stronger because we're a stronger unit, and we have a plan to go forward. And so I'm really proud of that strength.
One of the things, so when I first, of course, I got the brochure from the Truck Safety Coalition, I went to the website, and I'm trying to remember now. It's so funny because it was now 10 years ago. And so I don't even remember I don't even know if I had a smartphone. I don't know how I got to the website or if it was on the brochure, but I remember the first time I saw Sorrow to Strength. it just felt so it just felt really accurate and empowering. And I attended my first full conference in 2019. And one of the things that really struck me is, we had about 100 people there in DC, people who have lost their children, their spouses, their parents, their siblings, people who have survived. Best friends, yes, best friends, people who have survived and witnessed the horror of what it is to be involved in a truck crash. And what I saw was people laughing, people smiling, crying, being together, and I think that there's something about being around people who get it, that you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to. And when I do my outreach now, as the first response outreach coordinator, and I, many people who are hopefully watching this, have gotten that call from me or that letter from me. One of the things is that people often will say, well, I don't, when they have legal questions or something, they'll say, oh, it's not about the money. I know that's not gonna, and the first thing I say is, you don't have to explain yourself to me. I have been here, or people who are angry, and they're apologizing for being angry. And I say, again, you don't have to explain yourself to me. I've been there. I know what that is. And so when we're around people who have been through this, we don't have to explain ourselves. We can be happy and enjoy each other without feeling guilty. And for some people, I think it's the first time that, since their crash, that they've been able to just let loose and be okay, because we're with kindred spirits. It's really an awesome experience. And we will have Sorrow to Strength again. More will be shared about that as we figure out when we'll be able to come together in person again.
I think lifelong friendships are made there.
Absolutely.
And they're different friendships than any other friendships you'll ever make.
Absolutely.
That is one of the most important things I think that we do. The advocacy thing is really important, but that conference, I think, is one of the most important things that we do.
Mm-hmm. So your donation will support this work. And here's the thing is that, I think that, those of us who, I think I've heard this from many people, I know it's true for Donna and I, didn't know what a big issue this is. Between 4,000 and 5,000 people each year are killed. Over 125,000 people are injured in truck crashes. That includes truck drivers, people who are just working, trying to get home to their families. Some of those crashes are truck on truck crashes or single truck crashes. They come in all shapes and sizes and forms. But it happens every day. And today, about 13 people are going to die. And over 300 people are going to be injured in a truck crash. And your donation and your financial support allows us to ensure that somebody is here to make that phone call to that family, to send that letter and that brochure to that family, to put on our Sorrow to Strength conference so that people can come together and turn their sorrow into advocacy, tell their stories to their legislators and educate them on truck safety issues. We have big plans for expanding our programming to be able to provide support to more people. And just to give you an idea, I just told you the numbers about, of how many people are affected each year, but I'm only able to reach out, this one person coordinating our first response program, I'm only able to reach out to about 500 victims a year. That's barely scratching the surface. And so your donations, your funding will help us to be able to reach more people. Ideally, every person who is in a truck crash would get our information from first responders or from our outreach efforts. And our name will be recognized and people will know, oh, when this happens, there's a place you can go. There's a community of people who know what you're going through. You don't have to face this alone. So your donation will help us to do that, and will help us to continue to make the road safer. And I hope that there will be a day where we see a declining trend in truck crashes and victims, because I can't tell you how hard it is to see every single day another news story of a vehicle slowed in traffic and rear-ended by a semi and a family killed. a mother killed, a husband killed, a father killed. It's just every single day. And we have the technology to prevent it. We have the ability to prevent a lot of these crashes. And there are many issues, which we would both be happy to talk to you about.
At length.
At length, minimum insurance, underride guards. We have all sorts of suggestions and available ways to improve the situation. So please consider donating this Giving Tuesday. It will go a long way. Any amount that you give will go a long way to help us continue our work. Do you have anything else to add, Dawn, before we sign off for now?
I think that if you could also share our posts so that your friends have that opportunity to donate as well. People that we just haven't met yet need to also know that truck crashes don't discriminate. So whatever party you affiliate with, whatever religion you believe in, your race and your sex and your nationality, none of that matters. Truck crashes are happening everywhere to all sorts of people. And so the people that we haven't met yet need to know about the Truck Safety Coalition and Pat and Crash. So if you could share our Giving Tuesday post with your friends, we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. We have a fundraiser posted on our page, our Facebook page. You can donate there. You can also go to our website, and there's an option to donate directly through PayPal. Again, your donation.
Trucksafety.org.
Oh, yes, trucksafety.org. And that's also where you can reach us. You can reach us through our website. You can call us. You can send us an email. We're happy to grow our community as big as it wants to get and support.
We're happy and unhappy about growing our community.
Yes, absolutely. We always say on our Facebook group, whenever people join, we say, we're sorry you're here. We're sorry that you have to be here, but since you are, since you're going through this, we're glad you're here.
We're glad you found us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to be directly affected to advocate and to, promote.
I was thinking about that this morning, that we need to find a way to involve people that don't know someone that's been killed or injured in a truck crash. Just like there are volunteers at Mothers Against Drunk Drivers that have never had an experience. So that's another way to grow our organization.
Absolutely.
You are all invited to come join.
You're all invited to be with us and join our emailing list. We send out action alerts when there are things happening that you need to know about. We will be revamping our newsletter in December that will have, various information in it. We're always trying to grow and develop and make it, make a difference in the lives of people who have been affected, and also to try to prevent this from happening. So thank you all for joining us. I'll be back with my dad at noon, and he'll share a little bit more about our story and what happened to our family and what this journey's been like for him. So please tune in then as well. Thank you so much, Dawn.
Thanks, Kelly. See ya.
Bye.